Hello and welcome to the first of many videos that I am going to do. I'm going to do one for every hero, which is basically just a quick little my thoughts on who counters this hero realistically in a game of Overwatch. Not, on paper, not in top 500. Most of us aren't top 500. I'm not top 500. I'm anywhere ranging between high plat, low masters, depending on rank, which is, slightly above average, but also, if you're the kind of person who watches Overwatch content on YouTube, then you are also likely in that skill range. I think that's fair to say. And I've seen a lot of takes recently on specifically, like Mauga here, who's going to be the first one we're going to talk about, because it's the most recent, so why not? And I thought we'd have a little look at it, because I don't think it, at our skill level, like I'm saying, I don't think he's anywhere near as good as all of these top 500 streamers and professional players are saying that he is, because he's easily exploitable when you don't know, when you don't play him optimally. So yeah, that's sort of what gave me the idea to do this in the first place. If you like more of this content, feel free to let me know. I'm gonna do one for every hero. That's coming out regardless of whether you like it or not, I suppose. But yeah, I might do more of this kind of stuff in the future if there is an audience and a market for it. So without further ado, I'm just gonna go in order here. Bastion, this is the kind of character that a lot of people think really counters Mauga. And like on paper it seems like he should, but he really doesn't. At best I would say it's a skill matchup. If anything, I think the Mauga might actually have a soft advantage against the Bastion, because Mauga seems like the kind of character who should be countered by Bastion, because he's no shield, just a large character, large health pool. The problem comes when the Mauga literally just out damages him, right? The Mauga's not very good against squishy targets, the Mauga's very good against tanks, and the Bastion is essentially a tank but with less HP. And for that reason, he just, I don't know. I see a lot of people try to go Bastion when the enemy Maugas are dominating, and there are much better ways to play that, I think. So I'm gonna give this, soft advantage. Cassidy. So the Cassidy can't do much against the Mauga directly. He can, put on some consistent damage. Obviously, Maugas that play poorly can be punished by Cassidy hitting pretty easy headshots on him, allowing the rest of your team to, you have to have the rest of your team to burn him down, obviously, but that is the case for basically any tank. But yeah, I think Mauga's got some counterplay to Cassidy's abilities, but Cassidy has a lot of space and room to try and do things that, that interact with characters that aren't the Mauga when a Mauga is in the game, right? Mauga makes it relatively easy for you to hit your shots and try and pick off some supports, or, flanking DPS who, because they have a Mauga on the team, have no tanks or no one else to really support them, right? And Cassidy excels in those kind of close-range duels against those other squishy characters. So, but the reason I'm putting it in skill matchup and not something like soft counter instead is because, again, at our skill level, a lot of Cassidys don't necessarily hit all their shots. So, you have to hit those shots before the Mauga burns down your tank. Otherwise, you're fucked. So, yeah, I'm putting him there. Diva. If there is a hard counter to Mauga in, Plat Diamond Masters, it's Diva. But I don't think I would put Diva at hard counter. I don't think Mauga has a hard counter other than maybe Ana. But we'll get to Ana. I think Diva has the massive advantage that most people don't think about, and people seem to have forgotten the strength of when we went over to Overwatch 2, which is the defense matrix. Like, the defense matrix against Mauga is just a better shield. Like, it's everything that Sigma and Reinhardt and those kinds of, brawly, sustainy character. I mean, Sigma isn't a brawl or sustain hero, but like in the Mauga matchup, he can kind of fulfill that role fairly well. If you don't whiff your rock. But yeah, I think D.Va's defense matrix is the best ability to shut down Mauga in the entire game, except for the anti-nade. Because it just completely stops self-heal. All you need is just a modicum of communication between you. Like if you're playing with a duo who is a DPS player, say you're playing with a Reaper as your DPS player, right? All you gotta do is when the Mauga presses E, pushes in because he thinks he can, you just hold defense matrix on him. You have what, 4 seconds of defense matrix, and then you just tell your Reaper to shoot him, and then he just dies. And there's nothing they can do. Like the Ana can't heal him through defense matrix. I don't know if Kiriko can heal through defense matrix actually, but she definitely can't Susu through defense matrix. Like it's just yeah, it's a really, really good counter against Mauga, and people don't seem to realize it. Yeah, like I don't like playing Mauga. I think it's boring as fuck. So every time I see an enemy Mauga, I just go D.Va, and I would say I've probably won about 90% of my games against Mauga this season. Mostly playing quick play though. Like I haven't played a lot of comp this season because I don't know. I'm kind of just waiting on season 9 so that I can play with my friends more. Because in the last 2 seasons I've gone slightly like out of range, at least in order to play all roles with my friends. But yeah, I think D.Va is bordering between hard and soft counter. I might put her into hard counter if I feel like it, but yeah, for now soft counter. Lucio, I almost should have like another tier here, which is just like it doesn't matter, like they don't interact. Lucio plays really well with Mauga, but I mean. Mauga doesn't do anything against Lucio, Lucio doesn't do anything against Mauga, so we're just going to put him in a skill matchup. Like, speed is nice to engage and disengage. But, yeah, other than that, like, that's it, right? Hanzo's kind of like the Cassidy. Very much fulfills that same role, where Hanzo can kill the enemy team relatively easily when they have a Mauga. Someone else like Sojourn, for example, is like the top 500 pick for that kind of thing. Hanzo's also pretty good. I'm kind of tempted to put him in soft counter though, because you have a little bit more pick potential, and Hanzo can actually threaten the Mauga directly, unlike the Cassidy. The Cassidy can't really do that. The Hanzo, with Storm Arrows, can, you know, eat away a solid half of a health pool of a Mauga. Especially if you combine him with something like a D.Va, right? So yeah, I think Hanzo's pretty good here. Obviously, he will always have the pick potential when we're not playing heavy shield-dominated metas, which we never really do in Overwatch 2. Like, the closest we get is with Sigma's hyper meta. Yeah, I'm happy with Hanzo here. Genji. Genji gets... So when we get to the ult fight, like, Genji is like just shit, right? But if the Mauga doesn't have ult, Genji's okay. I think I'll still put... I mean, I'll put Genji here. Because the Genji still has a lot of room to try and assassinate a backline, but there's obviously so many other things going on in the backline that that's not necessarily always possible or even remotely easy. And the Mauga, you know, the deflect is pretty good against Mauga, but I think the Mauga just has more things. Like, if they fight 1v1, Genji's never going to beat Mauga. There are other DPS heroes who maybe could stand a chance if, you know, they hit all their shots and the Mauga doesn't. The Mauga could probably just melee down a Genji to death eventually and win, regardless. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a soft advantage to Mauga. It's almost hard. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to do that. If they play Mauga, unless the Mauga is really bad and you're really fucking good, just don't play Genji into him. Like, play more consistent medium range damage so you can keep away from him a little bit better. Like Junkrat. Spam is pretty good against Mauga because everyone wants to sort of gather up around him. The Junkrat doesn't do a lot of damage to the Mauga directly. I mean, obviously he does. He does 100, like he does the same as Hanzo. But with the damage reduction of the E, with the, is it 200 armor he's got, 150 armor, however much it is, your first couple of shots onto him aren't going to do a lot. He's going to heal back up to that quite often as well. Like, and you don't have the like one-shot potential of a support or a DPS like Hanzo does. So on certain maps, Junkrat will be really, really good. Like say on what's it called? Nepal Sanctuary. No, Sanctuary is one on the outside. Shrine? No, Sanctuary is inside, Shrine is outside. Sanctuary is the one I'm thinking of. Junkrat's pretty good against Mauga there, because the Mauga has to play in, like, either very open spaces where you can spam from a safe distance, or he has to go into, you know, tight corridors. And Junkrat's always going to be good against any tank that has to do that doesn't have a shield. So I'm going to put him in skill matchup, because I think it's map dependent more than anything. There are, like, on certain maps, Junkrat isn't going to do anything against a Mauga or their team at all, but on certain maps he's actually, like, very, very good to play against him. So Mei is a bit of a weird one, because I don't feel like Mei should work against Mauga at all, but she kind of does in my experience. So I'm going to put her in soft counter, but I'm not entirely sure why. Like, she has similar to, not quite like Hanzo, maybe more like Junkrat, like the pick potential with the right clicks. If you're good at aiming your right clicks and getting headshots, like she can easily two-shot someone in the backline. And again, if the tank doesn't have any shields, then that's always going to provide a lot of value. The Blizzard is pretty good against cage fight. It's actually just a huge counter to the cage fight in 90% of cases. Unless he gets nanoed, in which case he can probably burn through you fast enough to that for that not to matter. Like, the slow is nice. She helps out quite a lot in any tank 1v1 matchup. She can wall off healing. Like, she's good. In terms of pure damage, she doesn't do that much, but she doesn't really do that much against any tank, does she? In terms of pure damage. That's not where Mei's utility lies. But yeah, I think she's pretty good against Mauga, I think. On most maps. So I'm okay with putting her in soft counter. Mercy. I mean, obviously you would pair Mercy. But Mercy in any of these sort of talks about skill matchups against character counters, anything like that, it's always going to be depending on who you pair Mercy with. So I'm going to assume you're playing Mercy with something that works with Mercy. In which case I think it's a skill matchup, because it's always just about can you stay alive for long enough. I think Mercy struggles to stay alive against the Mauga a little bit. Like, he does have the hit scan, he can do decent damage from, you know, medium range. But then again, I guess the best counter for a damage boosted like a damage boosted Sojourn or Hanzo or something, is always going to be a shield, which he doesn't have. So yeah, I'm going to put her in skill matchup, because it's so dependent on your DPS hero. Like, that's always the case with Mercy. Her healing isn't big enough to negate his damage, so that doesn't matter. It's all about the damage boost in this matchup. Pharah, I would say similar to Junkrat, but actually maybe a little bit worse. Yeah, a little bit worse. Because at least the Junkrat can counter the cage fight. The Pharah can't really. Like, the Pharah can counter the cage fight in that she can break it. Like, she can barrage onto it. But if the Pharah gets caught in the cage fight, like, she's just dead. The Junkrat still stands a chance. And I think Pharah is easier to kill for a Mauga. Like, the hitbox is pretty big, up in the air. Obviously, if she's pocketed by Mercy, it's never going to happen, but... like, I don't know. Pharah's not a very good hero. I don't like playing as Pharah. I don't think it's fun, but I don't think she's very strong. Personally. Orisa! Eaten alive by Mauga. Don't play Orisa into Mauga. Actually, yeah. I've never seen Orisa beat Mauga. You gotta be pretty fucking shit at this hero if Orisa beats you at Mauga. Don't do it. He crits through the armor of Fortify, which is the big thing. The spin, damage negation. Like, damage negation is always going to be good against Mauga, but it's only, what, is it 2 seconds? 1.5, something like that? Like, it's just not worth it. So you always have to use it defensively. You can't really use it to push in, because if you do, then the Mauga's just going to kill you. The Mauga is one of the most consistent characters at just killing you through your ultimate as well, so you can't even get that off. Like, Orisa's just kind of useless against him. The spear is okay for keeping distance, but I mean, he could also just counterplay that by charging it. So yeah, Reaper. Reaper's definitely a better counter against Mauga than someone like Bastion. When people are swapping to Bastion, they probably should be swapping to Reaper instead. Because at least with Reaper, you have the escape, right? And again, with someone like a D.Va, he's really, really good. I find in Overwatch 2, Reaper struggles a little bit to assassinate characters. Well, I guess he kind of had that problem in Overwatch 1 as well, right? Because he was sort of the tank buster archetype. Which isn't a good archetype, to be honest with you. I think he'd be better off as like a stealthy flanker, tighten up his spread a little bit, maybe take away some of his health and like... Yeah, I don't know. Reaper's a funny character who either is completely useless or dominates the game at this level. So I'm going to put him in skill matchup because it depends so much on the team around you. If you're playing it with a D.Va, I would say Reaper D.Va is like... Reaper D.Va Mei would be like the best combination of tanks and DPS I would probably go for to counter the Mauga. If you actually try to burst down the Mauga. Like, there's obviously other ways to play around the Mauga comp. Like, you can ignore him and kill the backline. Then obviously this wouldn't be the comp. D.Va would still probably be it. But I wouldn't play Reaper Mei in that case. I'd probably play like, I don't know, Sojourn with a Mercy and like a Tracer or something, right? Maybe a Soldier. But yeah, I think Reaper goes in the soft counter here. Because I don't know. I think he's one of the most consistent characters to deal with the Mauga, regardless of the comp he's trying to be slotted into. Reinhardt. Okay, so Mauga probably does have the soft advantage against the Reinhardt. But I have had some success playing the Reinhardt against the Mauga. The shield helps a lot, but also, like, the charge is really, like, it's not a particularly good ability in most cases, but it is very helpful against the Mauga. Because it gives your team, like, the 2 seconds while he's being charged to actually capitalize on him not being there at all. So, I don't know, like, it's hard to get away from the fact that the Mauga just fucking bullies Ryan in an actual 1v1. But in team play, the Ryan can do a lot to facilitate this. Yeah, I'm actually going to put it in skill matchup. The Ryan can do a lot to facilitate for his team. And even a few seconds of Mauga not being able to lifesteal because of the shield, at most ranks that aren't like bronze, you should be able to hit a Mauga enough times to kill him, or at least do some damage to him. D.Va's more reliable because with Defense Matrix you can eat most of the healing that comes in as well, but Reinhardt does an okay job, and on certain maps would probably still be as good as D.Va at least. Roadhog, I think Mauga has the advantage unless the Roadhog gets whole hog, and even then, I find like... So if the Mauga cage fights, and I whole hog him, and I think to myself, this is gonna be fine, every time he just gets nanoed, and then my health bar literally obliterates in like less than a second. I had that happen to me twice yesterday. And it kind of sucks. It just sucks. Like, he's okay, he can do damage. Like, if the Mauga is horribly out of position, the Roadhog is one of the few tank characters that can punish him for it. D.Va being another one. You know, you can hit a hook on a squishy, and if your team has ice, then they can punish that. So there are things you can do with Roadhog to counter the Mauga, but I don't think it's very reliable. And yeah, I don't know. The Mauga's just better. He's just a better Roadhog. Soldier. Soldier has the mobility to avoid the Mauga. He has the medium range damage to pressure him. and help out in actually bursting him down. You can, flank and ignore him. I think Soldier's pretty good at that. With the Mercy, he's, deadly to backline characters, to supports, to DPS who want to stay behind the Mauga. But ultimately, he is pretty squishy. If he does get caught out of position, he can easily get killed by the Mauga or by their team. I think you got to be good at Soldier to play him against Mauga efficiently, but I definitely don't think it's that hard to do it. So I think Soldier is a skill matchup. He doesn't counter Mauga at all. Nothing really does other than D.Va in my mind, but I think you can see some value with Soldier, even without a Mercy. With a Mercy, he's probably here. Without a Mercy, he'd be here. Sim is... Ooh, I haven't really thought about Sim. Like, I haven't seen Sim or Tor be played at all this season, essentially. You can TP out of the cage, which is nice. It's one of only... Is it 2 abilities in the game that can do it? It's just that and Grip, which can do that. So that's very nice. If you're playing with, say, a Reinhardt, then you could safely get up to beam 3, and with that you might be able to do something. If you're playing with a D.Va, it takes you too long to build that up by the time the defense matrix is down. The Mauga is probably ready to kill your team again. I think it's probably a soft advantage to the Mauga because she doesn't do anything to him unless you have very specific comps. I feel like you can outrush a Mauga with like a Ryan Lucio Sim, I don't know, Bap Reaper or something. Bap May maybe. Yeah, you probably want May actually. You could feasibly outrush him, sort of just run past him and kill something behind, but I don't know, that requires a bit more team coordination than what I think we see most of the time in, again, plat to low masters. So I'm gonna put Sim here because Sim doesn't really... By the time she's cranked up the damage, it's likely too late, and the Mauga's already gained an advantage in the tank matchup. So I think she goes here. Torb, I suppose it's like... Torb is just Cassidy, isn't he? Like, the turret might get decent value when there's no shields, but also, like, the Mauga does actually have decent range damage, and obviously there's 4 other players on the team as well that can just kill the turret. You can do a decent amount with spam damage. The comm is really, really good in the cage fight, both for and against. Like if you're playing with a Mauga, the comm is really, really good as well. If you're playing against the Mauga, then obviously you have to jump in because it's a shield, so it would bounce off it, but you can essentially sacrifice yourself to guarantee the kill on the Mauga, unless the Mauga is actually good and, cancels it and just runs away. But most bad Maugas don't realize you can do that yet. So yeah, I think that's a skill matchup. Like, he's got a lot of the same consistent damage stuff that someone like Cassidy does. Little bit less of like that pick potential, but a little bit more counterplay against the ult. So he goes in the skill matchup as well. I think that's fair. Tracer. So I've seen like content creators who are good at this game, or at least like, better than me, say that Tracer is pretty good because obviously you can just kind of ignore him and you can focus on the backline, and she's one of the best characters to do that. And I agree with that, and I see the vision. I really do. I just don't think most people are able to kill the backline fast enough for the rest of your team to not fall over 4v5 against the Mauga comp. Which means you kind of are forced to play Tracer a little bit like a Reaper, where you tank bust, which is fine. Like, Tracer's surprisingly good at tank busting. And, you can really, really easily stick the Pulse Bomb, which is half his health, which is basically a fight win, unless the enemy has any other support characters in the game, which of course they do, so it's useless. I don't know. She dies really fast as well. I'm gonna put soft advantage. I think most players above me would probably put her in skill matchup. I'm gonna put her in soft advantage though, because unless you one-clip those supports, I don't think you're getting enough value out of Tracer. Which pains me to say, because like Tracer is like my favorite character to play. It's Tracer and Ana have been my mains for the last like 5 years, but it's just not fun. Even I mean, she got the buff as well. She got the 6 damage per bullets, up from 5.5, and it felt really good at the start of the season. And then Mauga just took over. Like, he just got buffed to fucking oblivion. Obviously, I mean, it is literally, if I can't get this video out today, then it might already instantly be dated. But I am recording this on the 9th of January, and I believe the Mauga nerfs are coming in like 6 hours. So all of this is probably fucking redundant. Like, I like to think that the theories behind it will still be the same. And maybe you basically just move every character up by 1, depending on what the nerfs actually are. But yeah. So maybe Tracer will be back to being very fun to play again, like she was at the start of the season. Widowmaker. Widowmaker against almost any character in the game is going to be a skill matchup, because it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if Sombra kills a Widowmaker if the Widowmaker just hits 2 headshots beforehand, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Widowmaker is a skill matchup against almost every character in the game. Mauga's no different. Like, Widow can do decent amount of damage to the Mauga to help out with a 1v1, but really, she's got the big potential behind it, because there's no shield. If you have a Sen on your team and the Sen discords the Mauga, then hitting 1 headshot on the Mauga will probably win you the fight. So I'll say that. That's quite helpful, because that's discorded headshot. Obviously, he has the armor reduction on the first 150 of his health, but you're still looking at about 300 damage, almost half his health. Yeah, if you have a Mauga as well, then you should probably win from there, right? In theory. Winston! Monkey. It's sad to do this, man. I love playing Winston. He's maybe my favorite tank to play. Him and Reinhardt are my 2 favorite tanks to play. I was mostly a tank main in Overwatch 1. Or at least that was my best role in Overwatch 1. But I just don't like... He doesn't have the survivability of D.Va. He doesn't have the pure, like, shield utility of Reinhardt in this matchup. He can do things. If he can avoid the Mauga, he's definitely good. But if the Mauga, like, you know, Winston jumps in on the backline, jumps over the Mauga, ignores him. If the Mauga just turns around, presses shift, runs at him, slams him down, then, like, he's just dead. So... And even, like, Primal does fucking nothing against the Mauga. And also, he's basically useless in the cage fights. Actually, don't play Winston. I've talked myself out of it. Don't play Winston into Mauga. On certain maps, you could probably do it. You can get away with it on, like, Gibraltar, I'm sure. You could probably get away with it on Parisal. At least the first 2 points, I could see it. And, you know, other maps like that, Dorada first, maybe Dorada first and second. But, like, yeah, I don't know. Don't play Winston. Zarya. Zarya is the kind of character which a lot of people think counters Mauga, because you're like, oh, yeah, he's going to charge you up, you're going to 100 charge, and then you're just going to roll him. Newsflash, he still out-damages you when you are on 100 charge. He just fucking wipes you. Like, don't play Zarya into this fucking guy. Unless he's a bad player, then you could probably get away with it. But, like, just don't play Zarya into Mauga. Jesus Christ. Stop doing that. Every time my tank goes Zarya, we just lose. Don't do it. She's bad against Mauga. Don't do it. And obviously now they're tweaking the numbers, so now she's going to be there. Like, if he does less damage, if that's, you know, what the nerf is, he's less survivable, he does less damage, then Zarya's going to be like here. Along with some of these other guys. But for now, no. Sen. Goes in here for a lot of the same reasons as a lot of the other characters here. The skill matchups tier in this specific matchup is probably more to do with what can they do when they don't interact with the Mauga. Right, the Sen can put the Discord Orb on the Mauga, that's pretty good. You can do some okay damage to him, that's fine. But really, I think Sen's value in this kind of matchup will be in if he can pick up someone behind the Mauga, or kill someone who's trying to flank around you, or something like that. Because even with the Discord Orb and the additional damage from the Sen, if the Mauga has an Ana pocketing him, then it doesn't matter, like it's too much healing. So, speaking of Ana, the only hard counter to Mauga. The reason for that is obviously anti-nade. Sleep is pretty good. Although there is some counterplay to sleep, but really if you just wait for him to charge, then he's an easy sleep target. And if you hit an anti-nade on him and you're playing a remotely aggressive composition, then you will kill him. Ana also has really, really underrated just pure damage numbers. She can do all the things that these guys can do, but from the support position. 70 damage per shots, 3 shots every 2 HP, 200 HP target. Obviously that can be healed through, but if you hit an anti-nade, like if you shoot anti-shoot, they die, because that's 200 HP. Ana is amazing. She needs nerfs. I don't want her to get them, because I'm an Ana main. She's my most played character, but I think it's time to experiment with only reducing healing by a certain percentage instead of cutting it off. I've been an advocate for anti-nade to heal or to prevent 50% of healing for maybe a slightly longer duration of time forever. I don't think you need to mess with the cooldown. It can still be on a long cooldown. That's still an incredibly powerful ability, and I'm kind of sick of this thing where overpowered characters receive a nerf, but then the devs feel like they have to like compensate by buffing something else. Like, no, she's too strong. Ana is too powerful. You don't need to nerf something and then buff something else to compensate. You just need to nerf the thing. That's all you need to do, right? So yeah, Ana's here. Ana's going to be here for a lot of characters, I think. A good Ana could 1v1 every single character in the cast, probably. So, yeah. Ana's here. The only character that's going to be here on the Mauga one. Doomfist. Don't play Doomfist into this guy. Just don't. There's nothing you can do. Even without the cage fight, he still just fucking rolls you. If you block, oh cool, you got your empowered punch. By the time you are ready to use it, he's already taken off like another 150 health off your health pool. And half the time when you block, you're already like half HP. So like you're just dead. Don't play Doomfist into this guy. Sombra. Sombra's pretty good. You can build EMP pretty quickly because he's such an easy target, no shields. You probably can't really assassinate many people with her, which is why she doesn't go up here. Like if he presses E, you are realistically not winning a 1v1 against anyone. But EMP is a big counter to the cage, the biggest counter in the game to the cage fight. And it's also just a good ultimate against him in general now, I think. Does EMP stop the lifesteal? I don't know, because it seems to affect some passive abilities, but not all. Is that wrong? Does it affect all? I genuinely don't know. I have no idea. If it does affect lifesteal, then, I mean, it probably still doesn't move her up into soft counter, but that it would be then something to consider. Also against Reaper, I guess. I never thought about that. I wonder if it does. Right, Moira. Moira's kind of like Lucio, where like you don't need to interact with the Mauga too much as Moira. I think with Moira you could out-heal a lot of the Mauga damage unless the Mauga is actually good at like focusing down something. I'm thinking skill matchup for Moira as well. Yeah, like, it's kind of hard to explain why, but I think it's just because she can truly just shit out healing and sustain your team pretty well against the Mauga. Like, if your tank is getting dominated by him, then there's nothing you as a Moira can do. And, you know, there might be something you as a BAP or an Ana or a Kiriko can do. But, I mean, realistically, that's just then on the tank, isn't it? If your tank is getting out-tanked, then sure, you can do things to help him. And if your tank is getting out-tanked, you probably should swap off Moira to some of these other guys. But if the tank matchup is equal, then Moira's fine. You can do things on Moira, either to help your team or to assassinate backline of the enemy team. I think you can DPS Moira pretty well against the Mauga comp. Or even just, you know, throw out some damage orbs every now and then to do a decent amount of sustained damage while the rest of your team is trying to get picks, and maybe break some, like, get over some breakpoints, you know, that kind of thing, with that extra damage. So yeah, I think Moira's okay against Mauga, actually. I'm not a Moira stan. I think Moira is a pretty bad hero against a lot of other heroes, because Moira requires other people to mess up, like a lot, to be good. But I think in this one, I'm perfectly happy with Moira being a valid pick against Mauga. Brig probably isn't. My hot take is that Brig is the easiest hero to climb with still, even after 6 years almost of her being out, and you know, for 2 of them she was completely busted, like utterly broken. And now there's this, seems to be this kind of thing where everyone's like, oh, Brig's kind of weak, she's not really that good. I think she's still really fucking good. You just gotta hit your whip shots. Like, that's all you gotta do. But that's the problem, right? If you play Brig a lot, you probably play Brig a lot because you don't aim very well. So, but yeah, in this specific matchup, Brig is not very good. Like, she can't out-heal any of the damage. Like, she can triple pack someone and maybe keep them alive that way, but that's basically all of your healing resources. Inspire's always good, especially in these like kind of brawly comps, but there's a reason why Brig isn't played in Brawl at higher levels, and that isn't quite as obvious at our level. But I think even at our level, like, it's hard to play Brig into a Brawl comp. You can play with the Brawl comp, you can't really play it against a Brawl comp, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and you just get eaten alive too quickly. Like, your self-heal isn't enough to sustain you for a fight. If you don't have rally, you probably die first in the fight every time. So I don't think you want to play Brig. I think you can. I think if you're playing Brig in a poke comp where you're trying to kite the Mauga, you know, he's really easy to hit whip shots on. So you can do that with like a Sigma, say Sigma Soldier, Ana. You need an Ana always, and like another DPS hero. I don't know, Ashe or Sojourn or something. You could probably do that, but it requires a bit more brain thinking than a lot of people are willing to put into this game, I think. Ball is the worst hero in the game. In most matchups, he just gets dominated now. Obviously, there are still like good ball players who get value out of him, and that's always going to be the case for like every hero in the game. But ball is really bad, and he just gets absolutely demolished by Mauga, like unlike anything we've seen before from the tank roster. I would rather play ball into like a Sombra Hog than I would into just a Mauga, to be honest with you. So Ashe goes in the skill matchup for the same reasons as Cassidy, Soldier, Junkrat, I suppose. It's the pick potential. It's not as consistent. Oh well, it is as consistent as something like Hanzo, but I think in this specific matchup, Bob is a worse ult than Dragon. Which is like, Dragon is a really bad ult, but you can get value out of it in the Mauga matchup because the cage fight actually does lock people into place. And it locks the Mauga into place. So if the Mauga cage fights, you can Dragon to get value. The Bob can't do anything. Like, the Bob dies in like fucking 2 seconds against Mauga. Like, he does nothing. Literally nothing. Not to mention the fact there's always going to be an Ana in this matchup too, right? Probably on both sides. So yeah, I don't like Ashe as much as Hanzo here. I think Storm Arrow is better than Dynamite in this hypothetical scenario as well. And yeah, the Coach Gun isn't as good as just wall climbing. Like, the Hunter can get away easier. So she's probably like pretty close to being in the soft counter though, but I'm not sorting these within the tiers. I can't be asked. Bap. I mean, I think he's good with the Mauga. I don't think he does much against the Mauga. He does consistent damage to the Mauga and to, you know, anyone on the Mauga's team. That's good. He got good burst healing. He got the Immortality Field, which is maybe become a little bit overrated as an ability in the last year or so. I don't think he gets anywhere near as much value out of Immortality Field in Overwatch 2 as you do in Overwatch 1. Again, top 500 players will disagree with that, but that's because they use it well. And you barely ever see that at our rank. Like, at our rank, it's like, if someone uses an Immortality Field well to save someone, like genuinely save someone, I'm not even annoyed. I'm like, damn, well done, good play, you did it. Holy shit. Whereas, like, you know, Overwatch 1, it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, Immortality, yeah, of course, cool, GG. I don't know why that is. Well, I know, I have some ideas. It's just, you know, the game's a little bit more fast-paced, it's harder to get value out of it, one less tank to save, so there's less health pools for you to actually sustain. Yeah. And it's harder for the BAP to stay alive as well. And also they have nerfed Immortality Field since Overwatch 1. I could be wrong on that, but now, you know, you only have 10% of your health. So if you save your entire team from a D.Va bomb, like, who cares? You're just gonna die anyway. But I do like the BAP against Mauga. I think you can actually do... You can put us some big numbers on BAP against Mauga. Like, really, like, just from a fucking scoreboard perspective. Some massive numbers on BAP. I'm gonna put him in skill matchup. Mostly because I don't really know where to put him. He's definitely not down here. He could be in soft counter. But I think there are other supports that do that better. Maybe not the damage, but the utility for the rest of the team and against the other team. I think both Kiriko and Ana do that better. And Illari arguably does the damage part better as well. I'm going to put him in skill matchup. Right, Sigma. When Mauga first came out, I thought Sigma was going to be here. I realized that's a little bit high. And I'm not even sure I put him in soft counter anymore. It's definitely not below skill matchup. Like, he's good against the Mauga. But it's a lot of the time really easy for the Mauga to cross the distance. Because Sigma... Like, he does have to play somewhat close. Let me put it this way. He had to play within the range of the charge. and you can't rock him while he's charging. You have to wait until he's done. So you have to wait until he's on top of you, then you can rock him, and then you can start doing proper damage to him. But like, by that point, it's kind of too late. So I'm gonna put him here because the ultimate's really good against him. He still does a lot of damage. Like, if you have support from your team, you can win against him. You can put your shield up behind him to prevent him from getting healing. And the kinetic grasp is really good as well for, you know, in the same way that defense matrix is, you know, stops him from getting the self heal. So I think Sigma is good, but it's definitely not the hard counter I thought he was going to be when Mauga first was released. Echo, I'm going to put a soft counter. I think Echo does what these guys do once again, but better. So kind of like a Hanzo, but also has more consistent damage than Hanzo in general. The stickies are still very, very good. The beam is one of the few things that can actually kind of burst down a Mauga. Yeah, I think she does a lot of the things that Reaper does, but with the added benefit of being able to assassinate someone from pretty far away. She's probably the best beam target, except maybe Sojourn. Yeah, I think Echo is, the more I think about it, Echo might be the best DPS against the Mauga. And again, top 500, that doesn't apply because the Mauga just fucking shoots her out the sky. But she doesn't in Platinum 2 Low Masters, so that's why she's here. Right, Sojourn. Mentioned Sojourn a couple of times already as a good counter to Mauga. I think she is. I think in top 500 lobbies, she's here. If anyone is here in the DPS roster, it would be Sojourn at least. At our level, she's here because she can't hit as many headshots with the rail, but you can build the rail to 100 charge super easily, and that's why she's here. She's not here because she kills the Mauga, she's here because she shoots 20 shots into the Mauga and then kills the backline character. And she can do that, you know, she's how many bullets does she have in her mag? Is it 40 or is it 60? She can do that 2 or 3 times a fight. So Sojourn's really good. If you're hitting your shots, Sojourn is probably the best character against the Mauga. And if you're not as consistent, I will go Echo. And if you're a little bit worse than that, May and Reaper are both there too, and Hanzo. So Junker Queen's an interesting one because I've seen a lot of people try to go Junker Queen to counter Mauga, and I don't quite know why. I don't get the science behind it. Like, the ult is obviously good. Like, you got the anti-healing on the ult, but like beyond that, what does she do against Mauga? She can't sustain further damage. I guess like a lot of people are grouped up, so maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't think she's terrible against him. Like, it's really easy to hit the knife. You can maybe try and reposition him a little bit like that. People are grouped up around him, so you can hit a multiple cleave, which might be game winning in certain situations, or fight winning. The ult's really good. I just don't see, like, you know, if you're both walking out from spawn, and say you're on a control point, say you're on, what's a good Junker Queen map? Like the Lijiang Tower Control Center, right? That's a pretty good Junker Queen map. Like, it's a good brawl map. Junker Queen's brawly. Sounds good to me. I don't see how you win the first fight. I don't see how you win the fight without the ult, you know? Unless your DPS just pop off. In which case, that had nothing to do with you picking Junker Queen. So yeah, I'm gonna put her in a skill matchup. I played a game as Junker Queen yesterday against Mauga on Rialto, and it worked really well. But I do think that was just because the Mauga was really fucking bad. Like, I don't know, I hit my knives, I hit my cleaves, I did a lot of damage, things worked out. But if I played against like a semi-competent player, I feel like I would have died. So yeah, I'm gonna put her in a skill matchup. Although this one could be either here or here, I don't know. I've seen a lot of Junker Queen against Mauga games, and I've seen it go 50-50 so many times. So yeah, maybe just skill matchup is fine then, I guess. Kiriko. Kiriko's an interesting one, because she's almost like a must-pick with the Mauga. To heal off the cleanse. To cleanse off the anti-heal, that's what I meant to say. But, like, she doesn't really do much for the Mauga, other than just pure healing, and the Kitsune is pretty good. But she also, you know, does a shit ton of damage. So, I'm gonna put her in soft counter. She can do a lot of the things that these guys can, the Cassidys and the Junkrats and all that. But she has the added benefit of also healing. And having the extra utility. So, why not? I think if you are really fast in your reaction time, you can TP out of the cage fight, but it's hard. It's not reliable, so I'm not really going to count that one way or another. But obviously, if you do get cage fight, if you get put in it, then you can use your ult to counter it. It's an okay ult to counter, depending on what your comp is. So, Ramatra. See, I'm thinking, because literally yesterday, I watched a video from Your Overwatch talking about counters to Mauga, and they agree with me with D.Va. They said Sigma was pretty okay, and it was saying that Ramatra is like the best one on like proper poke maps, like a Junker town. And this is once again one of those where like I see the vision, I don't know if that applies at a level as low as ours. And like, is it Frito is his name, who does the Euro Overwatch. Like, he's not an amazing player. Like, he's not, you know, a pro. He's, you know, GM pushing top 500 sometimes, depending on the meta, right? He's good, he's not amazing. I don't think that applies to us. I think it's pretty bad against Mauga. Yeah, so I don't think that applies. I think if you are good at Ramatra, you can make it work. But like, I don't know. Again, I see the vision, so maybe I should put him there. Right, so the argument's made, right, is that you can spam pretty effectively now with the buff to his normal, like, left click. He's got a little bit more armor, I think, so he's a little bit more self-sustaining. And with the Nemesis form, I guess you can, like, push past him. Kill people behind him. Try and sustain yourself through the pure damage. And I guess the ult's pretty good. But, like, I don't know, you gotta be pretty fucking good at kiting. And a lot of people aren't. So, I'll put him in a skill matchup. Because, again, I see the vision. I'm just not entirely sure it really applies to us. Right, Lifeweaver. Skill matchup. He does nothing. But you can pull people out of the ult, so that is something. That's not enough, actually. I've changed my mind instantly. He does nothing. He does nothing against Mauga. He does some healing. Pure healing isn't enough because the pure damage is too much. The pedal platform doesn't do anything. You can pull someone out of an ult, but only one person, so like, cool, you could save one person and leave someone else to die. That doesn't really matter. He's just kind of bad. He's still bad. Which is wild. And then Ilari goes in here. Because of the crazy peak potential. Because of the pretty good potential for healing and single target healing to try and save like an enemy, like a tank that is being bursted down by a Mauga. And most importantly, I think the ultimate is really, really good, because no shields mean that's a free ultimate. And yeah, they might have a Kiriko to save a couple of people with the cleanse, but like that should be a guaranteed least one kill, right? So I think Illari is pretty good against Mauga. So that's the list. Anything we want to change before we end this here? No, I don't really think so, actually. I think that's fine. Alright. Let me know what you think. Let me know how incredibly just not at all relevant this is going to be in about 6 hours when the patch goes live. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. There will be... I mean, how many heroes are there? Like 37? So there will be another 36 of these, at least, over the next coming weeks. I think I'm going to try and do a couple a day, but no promises on that. If you want any content in the meantime, I'm also going to be starting to stream on YouTube as well. I think for now I'm mostly going to stick to Overwatch stuff, but I do want to go into more variety stuff as well. Because I play a lot of other things that are not Overwatch, believe it or not. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, please, like, comment, and subscribe and all that. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.